Mystic empires. What if I told you that one of the most advanced, powerful, and enlightened empires in human history was wiped from the earth in a single, cataclysmic day? And what if their greatest secret wasn't how they died, but how they lived? A secret that has been calling to us from across the millennia, buried under ash and legend. Welcome, seekers of truth, to Mystic Empires. Today, we journey to a sun-drenched island in the heart of the wine-dark sea, to the labyrinth of time itself, to uncover the story of a people so extraordinary, their echo still shapes our world. We are going to unravel the story of the Minoans, secrets of ancient Crete. Before the pharaohs reached their peak, before the foundations of Mycenae were laid, and 1,000 years before Homer sang of Achilles and Hector, a civilization flourished on the island of Crete that was unlike anything the world had ever seen. They were not a people of grim fortresses and warlord kings. They built not with fearsome walls, but with light, with art, and with an audacious confidence that seems almost impossible for the ancient world. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper. A whisper carried on the salt-kissed winds of the Mediterranean, a whisper of a name that would become legend, King Minos. To the later Greeks, Minos was a figure of myth, a powerful ruler, son of Zeus and Europa, who commanded the seas and built a labyrinth to contain a monstrous half-man, half-bull, the Minotaur. For centuries, this was all we had. A compelling, terrifying story. A story of tribute, of 7 Athenian youths and 7 maidens sent to be devoured, of the hero Theseus and the clever princess Ariadne with her fateful thread. But what if the myth is not just a story? What if it is a distorted memory, a fractured reflection of a real, magnificent, and very tangible world? This is the first secret of the Minoans. Their truth is hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of the legends we thought we knew. For millennia, the Minoans were just that, a myth. Then, in the early 20th century, a man named Sir Arthur Evans arrived on Crete. Driven by a belief that there was truth behind the tales of Homer and the myth of Minos, he began to dig at a site called Knossos. What he unearthed would send shockwaves through the world of archaeology and rewrite the history books. He didn't find a simple village. He didn't find a crude fortress. He found a palace. But to call it a palace is to call the Sistine Chapel a room with a painted ceiling. It was a vast, breathtaking, multi-storied complex, a labyrinthine structure of corridors, staircases, light wells, and hundreds of rooms covering over 150,000 square feet. It was so complex, so bewildering in its layout, that Evans immediately understood the origin of the labyrinth myth. Any visitor, any invading force, would have become utterly lost in its winding passages and sudden dead ends. But this was no monster's den. This was the heart of a sophisticated, elegant, and stunningly modern-seeming civilization. Evans, naming this lost people after their mythical king, the Minoans, had pulled back the curtain on a world lost for over 3,500 years. Let's step inside this labyrinth. Let's walk its corridors. The first thing that would strike you is the light. Unlike the dark, oppressive Megara of the later Mycenaeans, the palace of Knossos was designed to welcome the sun. It featured open courtyards, cleverly placed light wells that channeled sunlight deep into the building's heart, and rows of columns that tapered downwards, painted a vibrant, earthy red, creating a sense of airiness and grace. The walls were not bare stone. They were alive with art. Frescoes of breathtaking beauty and vitality depicted a world in love with life itself. This is where we find the second secret of the Minoans. Their worldview was one of fluidity, nature, and joyful movement. Look at their art. You will see the famous bull leaping fresco, not a scene of brutal conquest, but a breathtaking acrobatic feat. A young man, agile and powerful, somersaulting over the back of a charging bull, assisted by 2 young women. It speaks of courage, yes, but also of skill, grace, and a sacred partnership with the raw power of nature. You will see the Prince of the Lilies, a young man with a majestic plume crown, leading some sacred procession. You will see frescoes of dolphins dancing in blue seas, of monkeys playing amidst flowers, of octopuses wrapping their tentacles around elegant pottery, their forms perfectly harmonizing with the shape of the vessel. There is a profound absence in Minoan art. You will search in vain for grand scenes of pharaohs smiting their enemies, of kings leading chariots into battle, of slaves being subjugated. Their art does not glorify war. It glorifies life. It celebrates the natural world, ritual, community, and movement. This is a civilization that seemed to channel its energy not into conquest, but into creation. Their aesthetic sense was so refined, so vibrant, that it feels timeless. The swirling spirals, the flowing lines, the love of pattern and nature, it feels strangely contemporary, even to our modern eyes. But a civilization cannot run on art alone. How did they build this paradise? How did they sustain it? The answer lies in their mastery of the sea. The Minoans were the undisputed thalassocrats, the lords of the sea, of their age. From their island home, they built a vast trading network that stretched from the coasts of Anatolia to Egypt, from the Aegean Islands to the shores of the Levant. Their sleek, graceful ships, powered by oars and sails, crisscrossed the Mediterranean, becoming the container ships of the Bronze Age. They traded their exquisite goods. Saffron, a precious spice derived from the crocus flower, which is vividly depicted in their frescoes, fine olive oil and wine stored in vast, distinctive pottery jars called pithoi, and perhaps their most famous product, their magnificent pottery. Kamari's ware, with its elegant, eggshell-thin walls and beautiful abstract designs in white and red on a black background, was a luxury item sought after by royalty across the ancient world. In return, they brought back gold, ivory, precious stones like lapis lazuli, and other raw materials that fueled their artistic and architectural wonders. This economic prowess created a society of remarkable wealth and, it appears, remarkable social structure. Here we approach the third, and perhaps most inspiring, secret of the Minoans, the prominence of women. In nearly every other contemporary ancient society, women held a secondary, often secluded role. Not so in Minoan Crete. The evidence from their art is overwhelming. Women are depicted prominently, confidently, and as central figures in what appear to be the highest levels of religious and public life. We see them in the frescoes, bare-chested, with elaborate hairstyles and flounced skirts, participating in ceremonies, leading processions, and interacting with deities. They are not passive ornaments. They are active participants. Many scholars believe that Minoan religion was dominated by a powerful female pantheon, headed by a great goddess, a potent deity of nature, animals, and the cycle of life and death. The snake goddess figurines found at Knossos, a powerful woman holding writhing snakes in her hands, exudes an aura of command, of intimate connection with the chthonic powers of the earth. She is not a figure of fear, but of power and protection. This has led to fascinating speculation. Was Minoan society a matriarchy? We cannot say for certain, but it was almost certainly a matrifocal one, a society where the central, dominant cultural and religious power was feminine. In a world where masculine, warrior gods were the norm, the Minoans worshipped a divinity that reflected the life-giving and life-taking power of the natural world, a power they saw as inherently feminine. This reverence translated into a social reality where women held a status and freedom that would not be seen again in the Western world for thousands of years. Imagine the power of that. A society where the sacred feminine was not just respected, but was the cornerstone of their spiritual and perhaps even political life. Their sophistication extended to the very practicalities of life. The palace of Knossos was a marvel of hydraulic engineering. They had complex systems of terracotta pipes for bringing in fresh water and draining waste. They had systems for managing rainwater, with large cisterns for storage. They even had what appear to be the world's first flush toilets, a luxury unimaginable in most of the world for centuries to come. Their administrative system, while not fully deciphered, was meticulous. They used a script we call linear A, etched onto clay tablets, to keep track of the vast economic resources flowing through the palace. It was a complex, organized, and highly bureaucratic society, the engine room of their elegant world. For centuries, this civilization thrived. From around 2000 BC to 1450 BC, the Minoans experienced their golden age, what archaeologists call the Neopalatial, or New Palace, period. The palaces like Knossos, Phaistos, Malea, and Zakros were not grim citadels. They were the vibrant, beating hearts of their regions, administrative centers, religious hubs, workshops, and storage depots all in one. The surrounding towns and villas suggest a prosperous society, a level of wealth that seems to have been distributed, not just hoarded by a single king. Life, for the average Minoan, was likely better than for almost anyone else in the Bronze Age world. They lived in well-built homes, enjoyed a varied diet from the sea and their fertile land, participated in vibrant communal rituals and festivals, and were surrounded by art that celebrated the beauty of their existence. They were safe behind their maritime empire, their wooden walls, long before the Athenians would use the same term. They had created something unique. A peaceful, prosperous, and artistically sublime civilization that stood as a beacon in an often brutal ancient world. But then, it ended. And the end was as dramatic and terrifying as any myth. Around 1600 BC, a cataclysm occurred 70 miles to the north of Crete. The volcanic island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, exploded in one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. The scale is almost incomprehensible. It is estimated to have been 4 to 5 times more powerful than the Krakatoa eruption of 1883. The explosion would have been heard across continents. A massive tsunami, a wall of water hundreds of feet high, radiated out from the caldera, racing southwards at incredible speed before crashing into the northern coast of Crete. Imagine the scene. A day like any other. The sun is shining. The fishermen are out. The artisans are at work. The priests and priestesses are preparing for ceremony. Then, a low rumble that grows into a deafening roar. The sky darkens as a pillar of ash and smoke blots out the sun. Then, the sea. It draws back, a terrifying sight, before surging forward as a mountain of water, obliterating everything in its path. The coastal towns, the Minoan fleet anchored in harbors, the fertile farmlands. The tsunami was followed by falls of volcanic ash and pumice, burying the eastern half of the island under a thick, gray blanket, smothering agriculture and poisoning the water. The Minoan civilization, in its heartland, was dealt a mortal blow. Their fleet, the source of their wealth and power, was destroyed. Their coastal centers were wiped away. Their agricultural base was devastated. The world they had built, a world of grace and light, was shattered in a few horrific hours. But it did not completely vanish. Knossos, located inland, survived the initial cataclysm. For another 50 years or so, a diminished form of the civilization clung on. But the trauma had left them weak, vulnerable. And waiting in the wings were the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece, a tougher, more warlike people who had long been influenced by Minoan culture. Around 1450 BC, the evidence suggests the Mycenaeans invaded Crete. They took over Knossos. They introduced their own culture, their own warrior aristocracy, their own script, Linear B, an early form of Greek used for administrative purposes. The graceful Minoan art gives way to cruder, more martial motifs. The vibrant, life-affirming culture was subsumed, its light finally extinguished. The labyrinth fell silent. The memory of the bull leapers and the snake goddesses faded into myth, becoming the story of the Minotaur and the labyrinth, a cautionary tale told by the descendants of their conquerors. So, is that the end of the story? A brilliant flame snuffed out by natural disaster and conquest. On the surface, yes. But to see it that way is to miss the entire point. The true secret of the Minoans is not that they fell. It is that they ever existed at all. And more importantly, it is that they never truly disappeared. Their legacy is a quiet, persistent river that has flowed through history, nourishing the roots of our own world. When the Mycenaeans took over Knossos, they didn't just destroy, they absorbed. They adopted Minoan artistic styles, religious symbols, and administrative techniques. This fused culture, this Minoan-Mycenaean hybrid, became the seedbed for classical Greece. The myths that the Greeks told, the stories that formed their identity, are filled with Minoan echoes. The story of the Minotaur is a distorted memory of the palace labyrinth and the sacred bull cult. The story of Zeus being born in a Cretan cave and raised in secrecy is a direct inheritance. And through the Greeks, the Minoan legacy was passed on, like a baton in a relay race across time, to us. Think about it. Our concept of a vibrant, seafaring culture. Our appreciation for art that is not just about power, but about beauty and life. Our fascination with the idea of a lost, advanced civilization, from Plato's Atlantis, which many believe was inspired by the memory of Minoan Crete, to our own modern stories. All of this carries the faint, beautiful echo of Crete. But the inspiration goes deeper than historical influence. The Minoans stand as a testament to a different path. In a world that often equates history with the story of conquest, of empires built on blood and iron, the Minoans show us that there is another way. They built an empire not of land, but of trade. They projected power not through terror, but through culture and economic influence. They channeled their collective genius not into monuments to their own ego, but into creating a beautiful, functional, and seemingly joyful environment for their people. They challenge our very assumptions about what is necessary for a civilization to succeed. Must it always be hierarchical, patriarchal, and militaristic? The Minoans, for a glorious few centuries, proved that the answer could be no. They created a society that was, by all appearances, more balanced, more in tune with the natural world, and more appreciative of the arts of peace than the arts of war. They show us a glimpse of a road not taken in human history. A road of elegance over brutality, of creation over destruction, of partnership over domination. This is not a naive, romantic fantasy. It is a conclusion drawn from the silent testimony of the stones of Knossos, from the vibrant colors of the frescoes, from the absence of fortifications and the prominence of the sacred feminine. They were not perfect. No human society is. But they were different. And in that difference lies their greatest power to inspire us today. We live in a world that often feels chaotic, divided, and fearful. We are bombarded with messages of conflict, of scarcity, of us versus them. The story of the Minoans is an antidote to that. It is a story that whispers from across 3,500 years. It is possible. It is possible to build a society that values beauty. It is possible to create an economy based on connection and exchange, not just extraction. It is possible to envision a world where feminine power is revered, not suppressed. It is possible to live in harmony with our environment, to build with light and grace, and to find our strength in our creativity, not just in our capacity for violence. Their civilization was physically destroyed, yes. But an idea, once born, can never be truly killed. The Minoan idea, the idea of a graceful, peaceful, and art-filled life, is an idea that has never been more relevant. It is a seed that has been lying dormant in the collective memory of the West, waiting for the right conditions to sprout again. So, what is the call of the Minoans to us, here, now? It is not a call to try and recreate their world. That is impossible. Their time has passed. But it is a call to remember the full spectrum of human potential. It is a call to inject Minoan values into our modern world. To champion art and beauty in our public spaces. To build our cities with an eye for light, for community, for sustainability. To seek economic models that are about mutual benefit, not winner takes all. To honor the feminine principle in all its forms, intuition, nurturing, collaboration, connection to nature, alongside the masculine. The labyrinth of Knossos was not just a physical structure. It is a metaphor for our own journey. We all walk a labyrinthine path through life, facing our own personal minotaurs, our fears, our doubts, our challenges. The Minoan story gives us a new thread to guide us. It is the thread of Ariadne, but reimagined. It is not just a tool for escape, but a guide towards a different center. A center not of a monster, but of our own highest potential. A center where we can choose to build, to create, to connect, and to live with the same joyful, confident grace as those bull leapers so long ago. The ash of Thera buried their cities, but it could not bury their spirit. The conquest of the Mycenaeans could suppress their culture, but it could not erase the memory of what they had achieved. Because what they achieved was a glimpse of a more enlightened humanity. And that is a flame that no volcano can extinguish, no army can conquer. The Minoans are not just a chapter in a history book. They are a mirror. When we look at them, we are not just looking at the past. We are looking at a reflection of what we could be. We see a people unafraid of beauty, deeply connected to their world, and powerful in their peace. Their secrets are not locked away in a ruined palace. Their greatest secret is that the blueprint for their mystic empire is not carved in stone, but is encoded in the human spirit itself. It is up to us to have the courage to read it, and to build our own. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of time. If this story resonated with you, if you felt that spark of inspiration, then share this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe to Mystic Empires. Because the story of human potential is the greatest story ever told, and we have only just begun to uncover its chapters. Until next time, keep seeking the light.